What's your position on tariffs? Do you have a strong opinion on tariffs other than what we've heard from everybody? Is there a unique position you have?
I generally support Trump's reopening of that conversation, and I don't feel too strongly about it because I think it's very case by case. I think that, frankly, the people who are on the anti-tariff side of this equation have basically been laid bare by the Nord Stream situation, in the sense that, the idea around tariffs was that we're supposed to have free trade, unfettered, capitalist, arm's length negotiation between consenting parties from different countries. Okay, cool. Why'd you blow up the Nord Stream pipeline? That was free trade between Russia and Germany. It is now open source, reported by the New York Times and the Washington Post, that it was Ukrainian divers that the CIA had advance awareness of. The official story is the CIA knew it was going to happen but told them to stop, but the message got lost with one of the Ukrainian...
Bullshit. We all read that story.
Even if you accept that, though, even if you accept the cover story, that means the CIA still had advance notice before it happened, and the State Department came out and said Russia might have done it.
Right.
Well, the CIA analyst memo is designed for the State Department. So they lied. They blew it up.
Yeah.
And that's free trade. That's free trade between Russia and Germany. You can argue it's a bad idea for them to do it. You can use diplomatic statecraft intervention tools to try to give Germany a better deal so that maybe our LNG coming from Houston is cheaper than the natural gas coming from the power of Siberia.
What a point of view.
But we didn't do that.
Right.
Instead, we blew it up. So if you're okay blowing up whole pipelines wholesale, then you should be okay with tariffs, because it's just a
form of
big bad tariff.
Right? It's a blow things up, sanctions, tariffs, right? Blow things up, probably the last one, but that's what you use. In regards to Telegram, he was seen as the guy that was just hardcore freedom of speech, freedom of this, values, principle. Pavel was like respected, loved, 32 employees, built a $30 billion company, whatever the numbers are. You've seen the interview he did with Tucker. You've done stuff with Tucker as well. And then all of a sudden he goes away and disappears. Then it comes out and you read the article. He gave them what they requested. What is your impression or maybe idea of what happened there?
It's a blob job. It's the U.S. foreign policy establishment reaching into NATO. There's no way that the U.S. ambassador to Paris did not have advance notice of that prosecutorial inquiry into Pavel months before the arrest was made, and that it did not have at least the tacit consent of the U.S. State Department in making that because they wanted it. Okay, here's a great example, right? So everyone knows that Tucker Carlson's father was the head of Voice of America. Well, Voice of America, along with Radio Free Europe, Radio Free Liberty, were CIA proprietaries from their start. Technically it was turned over from the CIA from the 1950s to the 70s to the Board of Broadcast Governors. This is Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Everyone can look this up. Look up its CIA origins. And then because that looks so bad that it was just our literal spy and lie agency was printing the news, they wanted to preserve the institution, but they simply made it under a private management. First, it was called the Board of Broadcast Governors. Now it's the U.S. Agency for Global Development, but it's still CIA Media. It's still the same network. It's still the same function. It's still funded by the U.S. government. It's still accountable to U.S. Congress. Now, they printed an article 2 weeks or 2 months after Tucker's interview with Pavel, and it's called Telegram. If you look this up, Radio Free Europe, Telegram, a spy in every Ukrainian's pocket. Yes, there you go. This is an incredible article to understand what's behind Pavel's arrest. So this is effectively CIA media saying, we need to take control over Telegram, and they're being resistant because they're not censoring what we want them to censor. And we also don't know if the Russians have some back-end access to or some secret deal with Pavel. So we need to effectively shake down Telegram's management. We need to get leverage over them because this is becoming a problem. And here's what they cited. They cited the fact that because of Pavel's reputation, Pavel escaped the Russian government in 2014 because when the CIA and State Department were orchestrating the Maidan coup, one of the ways that Russian-speaking Ukrainians were coordinating that mob activity to overthrow that democratically elected government was through VK, which was the Russian Facebook that Pavel started before he started Telegram. He was shaken down by the Russian FSB. he had to turn over VK effectively to Russian government control. He was so turned off by that he then moved to Dubai and started Telegram as a free speech service, where in a non-extradition country where he'd be able to do that free and clear. But that was being used to help a CIA State Department operation against the Russians in 2014. Now he's been completely backstabbed by them. Effectively, what happened is they said, listen, Pavel's had this free speech reputation. This is one of the reasons that we've relied on on Telegram for so much of our statecraft operations. The CIA and the State Department were using Telegram to evade state control over social media in Belarus in the summer 2020 color revolution attempt against Lukashenko. In Belarus, we did the same thing. In Hong Kong, using Telegram for State Department-backed rent-a-riots there. We did the same thing with Alexei Navalny inside of Russia when we were running the Navalny op in 2019, 2020. Everyone he was recruiting was Telegram because Russia ran on Telegram. When Russia, after the Navalny scandals, contemplated banning Telegram, it was U.S. NGOs, 26 U.S. government-funded NGOs, basically threatened the Russian government with international sanctions and being a humanitarian pariah state if they shut down Telegram, because that would impede the State Department operation to get Russian-speaking people on Telegram to have a secured, encrypted communications channel to run anti-Russian government operations. The problem is the game changed a couple years ago. So first of all, Pavel allegedly, if you read this article, they go over this, did some bond raise for Telegram where he raised something like $1 billion to finance it, and allegedly some of this financing came from two Russian oligarchs or people connected to Russian oligarchs. So the sort of CIA media here is making the argument that Russia may have effectively bribed Pavel to get back-end access to Telegram, which would be a major, major problem for the U.S. military, because the 72% of Ukrainians use Telegram. The Ukrainian military uses Telegram for its military operations. The Ukrainian parliament uses Telegram for its official. It's basically the official communications channel of Ukraine.
Is this it? 2021, after the collapse of cryptocurrency project Telegram, raised more than $1 billion in a bond sale among the investors with VTB Capital Company, in which the Russian state holds a majority stake that has been ran by Putin insider Andrei Kostin. And
this is the allegation they're making. I don't know if this is true. Again, this is CIA media, so it might be true, might not. But this is what they're arguing here. And mind you, Pavel said on Tucker that he doesn't go to the United States anymore because every time he goes, he's cornered by an FBI agent the moment he gets off the plane, because they want to know if Russia has back-end access to Telegram. And the FBI was actively trying to poach his own engineers in order to get a FBI back channel into the engineering back-end code of Telegram. So he said that's why he stays away from the U.S. Now, the other thing they mention here is, again, 72% of Ukraine uses Telegram, including Ukrainian intelligence, Ukrainian military, and Ukrainian government officials, which means if Telegram is indeed broken in terms of its code access by the Russian Federation, that means they were making the argument in this CIA article that maybe that's the reason Ukraine's losing the war. Maybe it's because we've been running this whole thing on Telegram, and Russia's been ahead of our every move because they're reading even our private, because you can do Telegram in public, but you can also do Telegram private encrypted. So there's public Telegram channels, but the military uses these private encrypted ones, and it randomizes your VPN, and the whole thing is like supposed to be super secure. But what if it's not? What if every single move that NATO has made for the past 2.5 years has been telegraphed to the Russian Federation because there's a secret deal with Pavel? So they argued we need to get Telegram under control. We need to seize control over it. We need to get leverage to do so. And the other thing is because we're losing the hearts and minds war because of the public Russian channels. And they say that basically NATO rapid response units have sent all these takedown requests to Pavel and his team in order to kill the Russian propaganda channels, which are influencing hearts and minds in Ukraine. They can't hold elections in Ukraine right now because so much of the population is against Zelensky. Part of this is because everyday Ukrainians get daily access to Russian Telegram propaganda channels. This is also how a lot of corruption scandals inside of Ukraine go viral, because Ukrainian media won't print it. The Ukrainian government has control over any of the quasi-private media stations there. It's all basically the Ukraine Crisis Media Center, which is just the U.S. State Department. But these scandals all break on these Russian propaganda channels, and then they filter into Ukrainian hearts and minds. And so they said, we can't even get political stabilization because these Russian propaganda channels, which are accessible to Ukrainians, are not banned. They're making the argument they made against Trump channels and Stop the Steal in 2020. So we need control over Telegram. We need a back channel so that they will do the takedown requests on the censorship side. We need for military purposes and for hearts and minds purposes. And we need a back channel to be able to make sure that the code is not accessible to the Russian Federation. And there's only one way to do that, because Pavel hadn't a care in the world. He was living in a non-extradition country. There was nothing you could do to touch him or his assets or his empire until he stepped foot in Paris and got nabbed by the prosecutors. And I will tell you, there is no high-level political prosecution that happens in NATO without the local U.S. embassy being apprised of it, because they might want to veto it. And in this case, with someone as geopolitically essential to the war over seizing Eurasia as Pavel, because if the CIA gets a back channel, the Russian military also runs on Telegram. So now we basically have a sort of World War II style cracking the crypto code of the entire Russian military intelligence operation if Pavel caves. And we know that he's already made these pledges to essentially have these NATO back channels coordinate all in answer to all these rapid response takedowns.
Why do you think he's doing that?
Well, he's got a lot to lose. He's a young guy. He's worth $1 billion or something like that. I think it's been reported, and I think they're breaking him.
I mean, you got Signal, WhatsApp, and you got Telegram, and I've communicated with a lot of interesting people the last few years. Everybody goes Telegram. The tie between Signal and
Signal was dark,
and WhatsApp, the whole one is profit, one is nonprofit, and the way they did it. And anyways,
hi, this is Mike Benz. You can connect with me on Connect for any questions that you have on internet censorship, foreign policy, national security, the blob, or if you want to know what a particular institution is doing that you may have seen or have questions about in terms of its control over the information ecosystem. So connect with me on Connect.
if you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.